that okay now? Can everybody see that?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm just going to talk to you first a bit about me, give you an overview of my journey into tech, give you a little bit more information about Bootcamp, sort of why I went to Bootcamp and what I got out of it. Then some tips for job searching and how I sort of came to find my role in developer relations. And then I'll talk to you a bit about what is developer relations and how to get into it. And then, as I say, at the end, we'll have a bit of a Q&A. So who am I? I'm Laura. I'm a developer and also a recent Bootcamp grad. So I started teaching myself programming in May 2020 and sort of fell in love with it straight away. And that led to me putting myself through Bootcamp in about September 2020. So I graduated Bootcamp in December after 3 months. I also write a blog. So previously I've done things like no jargon guides where I've broken down subjects like Git and GitHub in really simple language for other beginners. And now I document my journey as a new starter and sort of give my overview on what that journey looks like. And I'm also a developer relations lead at Vico. So I'll talk to you more about that later. So my journey into tech. So I don't have a degree or any tech related education really. Like when I finished school, IT was just being introduced as a subject. And when I did my IT qualification, the test at the end was to build a website using PowerPoint. So that's how technically advanced my IT education was really. And I just went through job after job after job, not really finding what it was that I wanted to do, never feeling happy or fulfilled, always getting bored like after a short time. And then May last year, I started a new job. And again, I was bored instantly. It wasn't what I wanted to do. And I wasn't really getting a lot of support to sort of further myself from my employer. So I decided to take it upon myself. I started looking at courses online and an ad popped up on Facebook for a 5-day coding course, learning HTML and CSS. And I decided to take it. It was just free for 5 days. And at the end of that, I was absolutely hooked and started on the 100 days of code, which you may have seen on Twitter, which if you don't know, it's basically a commitment to learning how to code for 100 days. And you can do it as a beginner or you can do it as a sort of career professional. It's just learning a new skill for 100 days and committing to that. So Bootcamp, if you don't know, if you've not heard about it before, generally speaking, they're sort of 12 to 18 weeks. They're intense. You go full time. Mine was full time, Monday to Friday. We started around 9 o'clock and finished about 4:30 every day for 12 weeks. And in that 12 weeks, we went through HTML, CSS, then React, and then moved on to full stack using the MERN stack, which is MongoDB, Express, Node, and React. And then at the end, we did a bit of Python and Flask and PostgreSQL as well. Now, my bootcamp offered career support. When I sort of went into bootcamp, quite naively, I think I thought that they were going to help me get a job. When really, in reality, it was just they would review your CV, your LinkedIn, that sort of thing, and tell you like, yeah, that looks good, or no, can you remove that bit? But they weren't there to sort of facilitate conversations with employers or anything like that, which if you are thinking about going to bootcamp, I'm happy to answer some questions on that at the end if you have any. So job searching then, my job search was relatively easy. I built my Twitter following through my 100 days of code. I've now got around 11,000 followers. And through that, I just posted my new portfolio that I'd built and asked if anyone was hiring. And the CEO of my company, Vico, wrote to me and said, oh, we've got an opening as a DevRel, and we think you might be a good fit. So let us know if you're interested. But I found this really interesting statistic, which suggests that around 85% of roles are filled through networking alone. So if you are in the job search, definitely utilize those social media channels. And I think blogging is a really great way to show that you are passionate about tech, and that you understand what you're doing. Because if you're teaching other people, then it means you must understand the subject itself. And also having a solid portfolio really helps with that, to show, showcase your skills. So just bring it back a little bit. I've obviously missed a slide, but basically my job search led me to the DevRel position that the CEO wrote to me about. So I work at Vico, and Vico is a platform for omni-channel retailers. And what that means is basically e-commerce retailers who sell on multiple channels. So I have a Shopify store that I own, but I also want to sell my product on Amazon, eBay and Etsy. And basically Vico becomes my master of stock, and so I only need to update one place with all of my inventory and warehousing and shipping information. And we also have two public APIs, one which allows for third-party integrations, like platforms that we don't support in-house can build integrations into Vico, and also a shipping API for any shipping couriers that want to integrate that we don't currently support or look after. So that brings me to, like, what is developer relations? What do I do on a daily basis? So developer relations is a bit of a hot topic, and some developers don't like it so much. The thought is that developers hate marketers, and a DevRel is basically a glorified marketer. Now, I don't agree with that. I think there's so much more to developer relations, in that it can be broken down into developer advocacy, developer evangelism, developer marketing, developer experience. So yes, there is an element of marketing for developers. You're going out or you're working for your company and you're trying to encourage the use of your company's products or your APIs by third-party developers. But it's also about the community building. So you're looking after developers outside of your company who, have little to no interest in your company, by writing content and going and speaking at conferences. And you can speak about whatever you want and write about whatever you want, as long as it's helpful to other people and teaching them things about, different languages, different thought processes, what is DevRel, DevRel strategy, that sort of thing. You can write about pretty much anything, and the view is that you help developers in the community as a whole. So currently I look after all the developer facing products that my company makes. So the APIs, their documentation. We have like a developer central, which is where all that information is held, and we have a developer forum as well. So I just look after that. Also, other DevRels look after, like I say, creating content and attending and speaking at events. Now, DevRel is really different, I think, company to company, although you'll find many of the same things sort of in there. I think it really depends on the company and what they're hoping to get out of their DevRel strategy as to what you will actually do as a developer relations. So I found this, it's I think it was one of the companies who now run DevRel Con. They put together a report about, what is DevRel. So as I say, you can have an evangelist, an advocate, an expert, or a marketer. Now, as I'm a standalone position in my company, I do a bit of everything. Some companies break it down, and some don't like the terminology like evangelist, so they will use advocate or they will use DevRel instead of that. So I think you can have a real mixed bag. And this is sort of from the survey what they found that DevRel do. So as you can see, driving awareness, educating, driving engagement, and getting feedback. So there is that real sort of marketing feel to it in that you're getting feedback and then you're passing that back through to the sort of developers that work at your company. So that's another really important element that I think I missed, is that when the third-party developers are using your APIs and things like that, you want to be getting their feedback and feeding that back to your team so that you can work to improve that sort of developer experience and build the community around your product as well. So why I chose DevRel? So obviously it's not I don't think a common decision for someone straight out of bootcamp to go into DevRel. Generally speaking, they'll go into junior engineer roles. I think for me, I was really shocked that my company were open to having someone at a junior level come in and do DevRel. But for me, it was a really easy decision because I sort of dreamed of doing DevRel, but knew that sort of thought it would be 5 to 10 years into my career would be when I would see opportunities open up to me. But obviously, if I was getting offered this opportunity straight out of bootcamp, then for me, I was going to jump at the chance because it was a combination of the things I loved. There's more variety. Yes, I don't do as much coding, but I also get the time to write the content that I had been writing at 5 in the morning, but I get to do it in my work time. There's different career progression routes, and so if I read around, and although it's less likely that someone will move back into engineering once they've moved to developer relations, that can still happen, but then you've also got sort of you can move to different areas within developer relations, or you can go sort of more broad in that you specialize in a bit of everything, or you can really go down and move into strategy, which is where I understand sort of most heads of departments sit. Yeah, and basically an opportunity to give a unique perspective and try to encourage other people to do the same thing. So what do I do currently? So I'm new in my role. I started about 6 weeks ago. Last week, I took ownership of all of the developer-facing platforms and materials, so our forum and our sort of support email. We don't get very many at the moment, so I answer any that we do get and any internal questions that I get from the team regarding the API. And I've also organised for talks with sort of non-technical teams within the business. I think like sales, they struggle to secure prospects who want a more bespoke solution because they don't understand as much about the API. So, I'm going to educate them about the API and the possibilities around that. I've been updating the documentation, and also I am project managing the relaunch of our app store. So the view is that we'll have an app store where third-party developers can list apps, which obviously can earn them some income. but for us, it would sort of plug any product gaps. And it helps us in, if a prospect says, oh, but you don't sort of integrate with X, Y, and Z courier, we can say, oh, no, we don't, but this third-party developer built an integration which you can have bolted on to your Vico solution. Yeah, so I'm just looking at the early stages of that project plan at the moment and getting that launched. Where I hope to take my role in the future, I think content creation, I'd really like to get into that. I am documenting sort of as I'm doing this App Store launch, and I hope to sort of put out a guide once I've done it, because we have a marketplace that's not doing so well at the moment, and it's really going to be how we turn that around. Like to speak at events and become a keynote speaker, which I think is a little bit of a way off at the moment, but definitely one of the dreams that I have, and also running a department. So as I say, at the moment, I'm a standalone position in DevRel, so I do a bit of everything, but I hope that I will make my department a success enough that I can employ other people. So how do you get into DevRel? I think, first of all, you have to be sure that that's the route that you want to take. Especially if you're a junior, like if you got into coding because you just love coding and you love programming and you love the thought of engineering, then perhaps you need to consider that at this point in time, DevRel might not be for you, because as I say, I haven't done any code. I've written a couple of lines of code when I was shadowing the engineers in my first sort of few weeks, but I probably won't be writing any code in the next couple of weeks. And my sort of coding level at work will be making example applications and writing code samples for our API documentation. So yes, it's a lot less coding than your standard junior role. I think, like I say, yeah, do research and really know if it's for you. Document your journey and your learning. So writing blog posts, being active on social media channels, and showing that you can build a community around yourself is proof that you can make that sort of successful. Becoming a mentor as well, because obviously part of DevRel is that you're going to teach other developers. So doing that quite early on will only stand you in good stead for later. Attend conferences and events and understand what a developer advocate does, and also follow them on social media. And just last week I sort of reached out to a couple that I've been following for a while and arranged meetings with them, and just sort of had a chat with them, understood more about their journey. And actually one of them gave me some really helpful tips on how to write a project plan and a DevRel strategy, because at that point in time I was a bit like, I've just been thrown in at the deep end, I've got to write a strategy, and I've just come out of Bootcamp. So yeah, there is definitely people out there who are willing to help you if it is something that you really want to pursue. So I just feel like I've just rambled at you for ages. So yeah, well, I'll take some questions now. And if you want to put them in the chat, I think is best, and then I'll answer them one by one. Okay, right. It's a really hard question. I'm in the UK, so I will go by pounds. I think the average for a DevRel who goes in after some time as an engineer, the rate is around 45. However, as a junior just going in, then I'm paid a slightly lower than that. And I was speaking to someone the other day, and they say sort of the lead roles and the head roles, you're looking at 70 to 135, depending on what you're doing in that role. How much of my day or week consists of writing documentation? It depends. I think at the moment, our API has been around for a while, and it is the same API that's used in-house as is opened up publicly. So effectively, anything that you can do in-app, you should be able to do as a third-party developer. But that's not strictly the case, and we haven't documented well our endpoints. So I'm just trying to get to a point where we can agree as a team, like which endpoints we're going to expose, which endpoints we're going to document, and then it'll be a case of documenting them. But I'd say once that's done, it would probably be a small part of my day, unless we were choosing to extend or change those endpoints in any way. Do I stand a chance to get a DevRel role without an actual company experience as a developer, just freelance? I would say you can never say never. You might find the right opportunity, and they might really love the experience that you do have. And they might be looking for something where it doesn't necessarily matter that you don't have any company experience. But I'd say just try to show that you have the qualities of a DevRel in other ways, and obviously soft skills are always transferable. So if you're good at, if you're a freelancer, you're probably good at talking to people because you talk to clients all the time. You'll be good at planning things, planning your own time. Yeah, definitely don't write it off. Do other developers in the company provide input into the developer relations? Yes. At the moment, I report into the head of engineering. The view was that I would report into the head of growth originally, but he's currently looking after marketing. And so that's why I'm reporting into engineering. But actually, it works quite well. Because for 4 weeks I shadowed the engineering department and managed to build some good friendships there. And that will really help in that I will need to go to them and say, look, we've got this prospect, they want to do this. Is it possible? Can we do it? Do you think we could change this? So yeah, I need their input all the time. Do you need to know how to write technical documentation? I think it helps, but I think if you're going into DevRel, unlike me, you should have someone there who knows about DevRel already and will be able to support you in that. So at the moment, I send any sort of request to change the documentation to my manager or to the engineering team lead who looks after that particular department, and they'll review what I've written. So I think it's enough if you write good readmes for your projects and really document how other developers can use those. That's a good example of getting started with writing technical documentation. What sort of roles did you have before you went on bootcamp? So I worked at McDonald's 16 to 18. And then after that, I went to uni. I tried it for a year, didn't work out. And then I went into care. So I worked with adults in care and then children in care for about 5 years. Then worked in payroll. My role just before bootcamp was a payroll consultant. So basically I would go to a company, assess their sort of payroll and HR needs, and then set up software so that it met their needs of their business. But it's not as technical as it sounds. There wasn't really a technical element. So yeah, it was just quite admin-y, I would say, before I went into tech and bootcamp. Are there opportunities you can recommend for us to shoot our shots at? All of them. I think, I don't know if any of you follow Danny Thompson on Twitter. He's a real advocate for saying, like, just go for it. Even if you don't meet the criteria, just send an application anyway, you know, because the worst thing they can say is no. I'm not saying waste all your time and send pointless applications. Like, make sure it's a role that you actually want to apply for, a company you actually want to work for, and take the time to really put a you know, thoughtful application in. And you never know, it could be a combination of your previous experience, your soft skills, your portfolio projects, how you've presented yourself on social media. It could be any one of those things that sort of leads them to employ you in the end. So I'd say, yeah, shoot your shots at anything. Probably not like senior engineering roles, but yeah, within reason. Yes, definitely check out Chloe Condon. She is great on Twitter. She's a, I think, developer advocate at Microsoft, but yeah, she's great. How big is the company you work for? So I think we're still considered a startup. We're fairly small. We have, I think, between 90 and 100 employees, but we grow so quickly because we have so many product features. I guess we're the only product that does everything. So yeah, that's constantly growing, and we're always employing new people. There's a big overlap with sales. Can you explain that question in a bit more detail in regards to the overlap with sales? Yeah, I think I've come to the end of the questions, unless anybody has anything else they want to ask. Ah, okay. Yeah, sales aren't engineers, so they come to you for coding know-how. Yes. I think, yeah, because we are a small company, and we have grown so quickly, and I think the API hasn't been looked after in perhaps the way it could have been. Yes, there is an overlap at the minute. And really, I think my company's focus is on getting more prospects, whereas other companies might focus on other areas. You know, the one thing to ask as a DevRel is why, like, why are we doing this? What do we want to achieve? But yeah, for my company, it's getting prospects on board and plugging product gaps that we sort of can't fill in-house because we're too busy working on sort of other features and bugs. Would you say 100 days of code helped with social media networking? 100%. 100 days of code helped. That's how I got started. All I did was shared the work that I was doing each day, not even every day. I think I started off with like no followers. Obviously, I'd never used Twitter before. It freaked me out because I'm not really a social media person. But yeah, I started posting every day initially, and then sort of you know, every couple of days. And yeah, those first few felt like I was just shouting into a void and no one was ever going to read it. And I was never going to, you know, get any followers or anything like that. But I just kept going. Use the hashtag, but use it sparingly. Like only use it if you're posting 100 days of code stuff. And definitely keep going. And like I say, I wasn't really a social media person. So the really scary thing for me was commenting on other people's stuff, and obviously not being technical at that time. I never wanted to make a fool of myself. So I found that really hard. So what I did was just posted on people who was like, oh, it's my birthday today, or oh, I just got a new job. And I'd say like, happy birthday or congratulations. And that sort of got me into the flow of posting on other people's stuff. Then I got a little bit more brave. I'd say target larger accounts. Obviously they're the ones with the bigger reach. I don't like to say like there's a tactic to it, because I really don't think there is, but I did put a thread together on Twitter of sort of my my tips for growing your social media, and I can share those with Navi to pass along to you guys as well if you're not on Twitter. Will the recording of this session be available, please? Yes. Yes, it will. If you didn't have social media following as big as you said, I think 11K, would it have made a difference in your role or even getting the role? Yes, it probably would have done, in that they might not have seen me. Like my post might not have reached my CEO. It just so happened that one of my followers retweeted my portfolio and the CEO was following them. So it might still have got there, even if I only had 10 followers, but it definitely helps to have you know, a bigger following, or more people to share with, I guess, or to retweet your stuff. I don't think it makes a difference in my role at the moment. And I've seen plenty of DevRels who have quite small social media followings. I think social media isn't the be all and end all, but tech, Twitter is definitely massive, and you can get so much help on there. You know, I've made some really good friends who I speak to now on a daily basis, and you know, I've built the Women in Tech Discord with someone that I met on Twitter, and another person that I met on Twitter I've started a blog series with. So yeah, I definitely think it helps in showing that you are passionate about tech and that you are serious about it as a career choice, and that you're happy to share your learning. I think learning in public is really important if you are interested in DevRel, particularly because that's something that you're going to have to do for the rest of your career. Did you have an interview for your role? If so, what was the interview like? Yes, I did have an interview. I had 3 interviews. So they definitely didn't just give it to me just because they found me on social media. My first interview was a meeting with their head of people, and that was just a general chat about sort of what sort of vibe was I looking for, what sort of role was I looking for, why was I interested in the position? Because obviously someone can write to you and say like, yeah, we want to hire you, but you might not care that much about the role. So they, I think, wanted to check that I was genuinely interested and wasn't just taking it as an opportunity because it was presented to me. So that was just an initial sort of 15-20 minute chat. Then the week after that, I met with the head of people and the head of engineering and talked more about my technical experience, about the technical side of the role, and yeah, sort of their vision for the role and what it might look like day to day. And then the third interview, about a week after that, was a presentation for 15 minutes on their API and its benefits. and basically I had to do all the research for that from scratch, and present that to the CEO, the head of engineering, and the head of people. But I've had other tech interviews which were more technical, and some that were literally just like one half an hour chat. So again, I wrote a blog post on this a little while ago, so I'll share it again. And I think, like Navi says, that will be shared in the events channel, any resources that I share with you. So yeah. How do you feel about going through the bootcamp to learn coding and then not really using learned skills to your full? I've definitely questioned it since joining. I'm not gonna, sugarcoat that. It's tough because I love coding, and it was the whole reason I undertook this journey. But also I love teaching other people, and I love that I can do both in my role. So I can, at the moment, I'm in a very fortunate position in that I can sort of define what my role does and how much of it, and as long as I'm helping the business as a whole. So yeah, I can do a bit of both, and also sort of coding in my spare time. But it was definitely a tough decision. But also, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for bootcamp. And it helps me in my conversations with engineers and understanding sort of what I'm asking of third-party developers as well. So it helps in my role, and yeah, I'm happy with my decisions. Did you have to demonstrate that you had the coding skills to use their API in an app? Not in an app, but I did have to give a presentation on it, like how it works, the benefits. Yeah, so I had to know how to make an API call. Basically, I use Insomnia. Some people might use Postman, but basically I created a developer account for Vico, and generated an API key, and then used that to sort of search through some endpoints and look at some responses, and then I wrote a presentation, and I delivered the presentation as if I was talking to other developers that might be wanting to use the API. So I didn't really have to go into really technical stuff, but I did have to understand like how it worked, and it was sort of a presentation I might have to give someday soon if we get third-party developers who want to build a custom integration. Yes, yeah. Yeah, just the point about bootcamp again. Yeah, it is a lot of money, and it's a hard decision to not be 100% coding, but also I think I look at some of my cohort who are still looking for work, and the cohort before them who sort of took 3 to 6 months to find work, and I'm really grateful to be able to work in tech so soon after bootcamp as well. Yes. So yeah, that's all the questions, I think, unless there's any more. Fab. Well, I'm on Twitter, as I say, LinkedIn, Instagram, if you can find me on there. I don't really post that often, but if you really want to, you can reach out to me. I'm happy to talk one-on-one, have a video call, or just a email chat, if you've got any questions after this that you think of.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Laura. That was very insightful and very helpful. That was a lot of questions that you took and so graciously were very honest about your journey and how you broke into developer relations. Guys, it's a really interesting field for those of you guys that there's so many different avenues and approaches that you can do under dev relations or advocacy or I think there was a new one that Ramona had identified. It's called happiness engineering, which I think is really cool. I'm gonna link all the materials in the current event channel, but yeah, do follow her on Twitter. She's pretty awesome, as you have noticed in this last 47 minutes. And that's it. And thank you for joining. And don't forget to join our Discord. We try to bring in awesome guests like this, and obviously have our hackathons are there. And it's a pretty cool community. And yeah, see you guys back on Friday. Take care. Thanks, Laura.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.